Chelsea fans, welcome back to Talking Chelsea. Welcome back to your Chelsea news. A Chelsea draw 2-2 at Qarabag, and Enzo Maresca talks player rotation, Lavia's injury, and hints at a return date for Cole Palmer. Not only that, but Estevao puts in a man-of-the-match performance, and Pochettino talks about his time at Chelsea. Now, of course, I begin my own thoughts and opinions on everything that's been reported, but more importantly, I want to know what you guys think down below in the comments. And before we get into the video, make sure you leave a like and subscribe if you are a Chelsea fan who enjoys Chelsea content. We're on the road to 15k by the end of the season. You can also use the new YouTube hype feature, which pushes this video out to a bigger audience. Kicking things off, Enzo Maresca said this in his post-match interview after the Qarabag draw. He said, "I said before, Qarabag play very well. They do great things and it was difficult to play against them. But we conceded silly goals and we need to pay extra attention going forward." The intention was to rest Caicedo, Enzo, Gusto and more. They cannot play every 3 days. The Club World Cup affected them a lot. We did try to rotate. And here is Estevao picking up the Man of the Match award for his performance against Qarabag. What a player. Now, I want to kind of speak about the overall performance of the game, Estevao as well, so like negatives and positives. For me personally, I feel like the game was decided based on Jorel Hato's individual errors, which were also not, contributed by with Tosin. I want to speak about that centre-back partnership, and as well as Chelsea just not being good enough over the course of 90 minutes. There were some ridiculous stats flying around about how much time the ball was in play at that Qarabag game. It was ridiculously low across the 90 minutes. But I don't want to lean into that. I don't want to use that as an excuse. I don't want to use the travelling as an excuse because it's part of the game. It's a factor, but it's not an excuse. It's something that you have to deal with when you're in the Champions League, at least in my opinion. I understand like I said, it's a factor, but it's not a complete excuse, right? But Chelsea were good in the first 15 minutes of the first half and the first 10 minutes of the second half. Outside of that, we were just not great. Defensively, again, very, very shaky. Now, I was happy to see Hato starting. I want to see him play more minutes. Now, there was a lot of people last night after the game, because the result didn't go our way, saying it feels like a loss. Enzo Maresca out. Hato is awful. Tear up his contract. Very reactionary Chelsea fan stuff, which we see in most games that don't go our way. And it's not a shadow or a dig at anyone. It's just the way it is. And I kind of wanted to break that down because I actually did a bit of hunting and looking for Hato's stats against, not just against Qarabag, because we know that he had some individual errors, but what he played, the positions he played for Ajax last season. And he spent majority of the games, I believe 68 games for his Ajax career at centre-back. And then he was moved to left-back under the new manager. And he plays very well in both positions. So I don't want to hear all this, Hato can't play centre-back, he's not good enough, blah, 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 blah. We've seen how good he can be. We saw that the performance he put in against Liverpool. Fantastic. I'm going to be honest, I think the real issue at the heart of our centre-back issues and where they're all stemming from is with Uncle Tosin. And it's, again, not to throw him under the bus, it's just an observation I'm making that anyone that partners with Tosin this season is having an absolute stinker. And when Tosin's not on the pitch, our centre-backs look a lot more stable, a lot more solid, making less mistakes. We know that Tosin is not the fastest in recovery. We know that Tosin is not great in one-on-ones. We know Tosin cannot defend transitions. We also know that Chelsea are susceptible to transitions, and we are weak defending transitions in general. So when you add those things together, it seems like it's stemming from Tosin. Anyone that's playing with him this season, it's rubbing off on them. Hato, I think, is very good, and he's only 19. I don't want to throw him under the bus. And to be honest, he's going to make mistakes. He's young. The handball, it's just unfortunate it was him. That could have been given against anyone. Let's be real. His hand was in an unnatural position. He was trying to turn away from the ball. It wasn't intentional, but you've seen them given so many times. That could have been Cucurella, it could have been Reece James, it could have been anyone in that position. So I'm not really blaming him too much for that. That first goal, he didn't deal with the pressure. He didn't deal with the pressure of the guy with the first shot. He was not in a position to deal with a rebound. But I also feel like Tosin gave him no support in dealing with that oncoming pressure, which led to that first shot, which then led to the rebound, which led to the first goal. So I'm not saying it's solely Hato's fault, but he is being highlighted massively for those errors. And I don't think that's fully fair. He didn't have a great game. Let's be real. He didn't have a great game. He looked very, very shaky. He looked like he was a 19-year-old that was fresh, playing Champions League football, which isn't the case with Jorel Hato. And it's not all about him, because we were not good enough across the pitch, in my opinion. I feel like we started the first half very well. We were, trying to get the ball forward, trying to create chances, and then we fizzled out. And Qarabag, fair play to them. Fair play to them. I said this in the match preview video. They have had some very good results in the Champions League, and this is not a game of on paper. Because on paper, Chelsea should be, winning this game quite comfortably, especially on the run of form that we've been on, but we know how inconsistent our team is. Now, I do want to talk about Estevao. This guy here, he needs to be starting more games. He needs to be starting in the Premier League. I don't care that he's 18 years old. This guy is our best winger right now. He is fantastic. In my personal opinion, I would be starting Estevao and Neto on the wings because I feel like And you've also got the excitement and the flair of Estevao, the fearlessness, the urge to create, the guy who was really trying to do as much as he can on that wide area. He gets himself another goal. It's a great finish. Good touch, good bit of play really, but good touch, good finish at the near post. This guy can go on and do more like this week in, week out. And I know that Maresca likes to heavily rotate. We're going to talk about the rotation as well, because that's always under scrutiny. And I've said this many, many times. When he rotates and it works, he's a genius. When he rotates and it doesn't work, it's something that everyone talks about. And Enzo Maresca even highlights this. Bobby Vincent reported Maresca saying the exact thing. He said, "We try to rotate. When we win, nobody mentions that, but when we don't, everyone is focused on that." Now, I understand what Maresca's trying to do, and it is very frustrating as a fan. Trying to rest Moises Caicedo, Enzo, Gusto, and a few more, saying that they can't play 3 games in a week because it's a knock-on effect to the Club World Cup. Now, I hear him. We've all said this at in the pre-season before the season started, that we weren't sure when we were going to start feeling the pressures of having a very small rest period and going straight into another season with Champions League and the pressures of trying to improve on last season's trophy wins and league position, etc. Maybe we're seeing it now. Maybe we'll see it in the second half of the season. Who really knows? So I kind of feel that Enzo Maresca is trying to overthink and over-prepare for those reasons, because, again, we've had a lot of injuries and also some suspensions. At least we finished the game with 11 men. That is a big positive, even though it felt like we were playing with 10 sometimes, because, honestly, we were just not good enough across the pitch. And I'm not trying to warrant Hato's mistakes as the only reason that we lost. Defensively, we were shaky. We couldn't defend any transitions. Qarabag were up for this. They played so well. They had some good results in the Champions League, almost like the dark horse of the competition. You look at their results this season, they've got some big wins and they've had some good performances. And, I feel like we gave them too much respect at times. They came onto us. They could have gone on and won that. I feel like we were very lucky to get back in the game. Garnacho came on at half-time. He gets the equaliser. It's a great finish, but he was fairly lucky in terms of how he got that shot. He tried playing the ball in, it bounced off the defender, and it was a pretty poor ball. I'm not trying to take anything away from the finish, because it was a fantastic finish, and I'm glad that he kind of went, all right, cool, take it onto my left-hand side and just drill it. And it was a very, very good finish. I'm glad that he got on the score sheet. But we failed to create... We created 0 big chances in that game. 0 big chances. Do you know how wild that is? It is crazy that we created 0 big chances, considering how many chances we were trying to create. No one to finish them off. Not clinical enough going forward. And too shaky at the back. And I'm going to be honest, I feel like we definitely need to go get a centre-back in January, because this is going to continue to happen with the inconsistencies of that centre-back partnership, because there's too much rotation at times. Sometimes, when I looked at the lineup of last night's game, I thought it was a fairly strong lineup. A lot of first-teamers in that. Some people were coming out saying, oh, what a woeful lineup. What is this lineup? I'm like, well, you've got like 7 or 8 first-teamers in there. He's made a few changes here and there. And if they didn't start the last game, they are still considered first-teamers. People were screaming out for Hato to get an opportunity. He gets one, has a bad game. Now people are saying, oh, he's not good enough. I don't understand it. I really don't. He's going to make mistakes. He's young. And I feel like he is definitely going to come on and become a very, very good defender for Chelsea. And I feel like it's all actually stemming from Tosin. And again, it's not to throw him under the bus. It's just an observation I've made. Over the season, he's just had a very stinky season. He just has. And Sanchez couldn't have done anything about the goals. I think he actually played relatively well. His distribution was good because we were going a bit longer. I felt like we struggled in midfield. Lavia's injury, which we'll speak about in a second, is such a shame, which means Caicedo came on from the 4th or 5th minute. So he got no rest. Enzo Fernandez comes on at the half. Garnacho comes on. Delap comes on. Tyreek George is a 9. You guys know how I feel about it. Yes, he scored, I think it's like 4 and 9 or something like that. I don't know why Enzo Maresca persists with Tyreek George as a false 9. For me, it's not his natural position. He should be playing out wide. But again, it's a factor in terms of maybe he's overthinking things. You've got the likes of Mark Guiu. Maybe you don't want to start Delap from the start. Fair enough, that's fine. But you still got him and he used him. I don't know. It's just confusing to me how we are very inconsistent. We are also very young. But I feel like we just weren't good enough for long spells of that game. We respected Qarabag too much. They came on to us and they should have won that game last night. We were very lucky to get a draw. But even the second half of the second half, where we were trying to force it, we created some okay chances. Enzo Fernandez had a few things blocked. One by Delap by accident because he was too close to it. The keeper made a fair few saves. But we just didn't do enough to get the result. So I'm not going to be on the bandwagon and have a referendum every time that Chelsea drop points or lose a game that Maresca, should he be in, should he be out? Because I feel like that I'm getting bored of that argument of people saying that Enzo Maresca out. It makes no sense to me. He's won 50 games as a Chelsea manager in 80 games that he's managed. Yes, he should be pushing for a 60% win rate rather than a 52, 54, whatever it may be. Cool. They are fine margins. And you can argue the Conference League games that are in that, whatever. I'm just getting a bit bored of it, if I'm being honest. There's no reason. For me, Enzo Maresca wasn't at fault yesterday. You can't blame him for individual errors. You can't blame him for the substitutes. He identified the problem. He made the switches. There we go. We did play better in the second half when we started and we got back into the game, and then we fizzled out. Now, is that tactics? Is that not us not being clinical? Is it poor defensive displays? Because I think it's a mixture of all of them. And again, it's not to say that Maresca is completely faultless, but you could question his lineup. Obviously, he had to deal with the Lavia injury, which we'll speak about in a second, which, again, you can't plan for. And some people will say, well, you can, because Lavia. I kind of hear that. It's quite funny. But at the same time, it's not something that you want to be seeing. I don't know. We're just not good enough, in my opinion. And I don't think the draw is the worst thing in the world. It's still a point on the board, but everyone was expecting 4-5, 6-0 battering of Qarabag, which I just don't think was ever going to be on the cards. I think that this was going to be a tough game, being an away game, a lot of travelling, a lot of turnaround between now and the Wolves game, a lot of rotation, which we know Maresca likes to do. You could probably question that. But ultimately, Chelsea weren't good enough. We had some defensive errors, but they're going to continue to happen, in my opinion, if you're going to be playing the likes of Tosin. Because we've seen the likes of Ashimpong playing. Why is he not playing? It's 2 games now he's not been utilised in. So why is he not playing? Hopefully he can play against Wolves. Hato's getting an opportunity, but against Tosin he didn't fare very well. But then when you've got the likes of Ashimpong playing next to Badiashile, he's great. Chalobah, he's great. It seems to be it's stemming from Tosin, and whoever he plays with, it's rubbing off on them. So I feel like Maresca's going to have this issue until we get a new centre-back sorted. We can play Wesley Fofana, cool. Put Fofana and Chalobah, great. Fofana and Ashimpong, great. Fofana and Hato, great. Just do not put Fofana and Tosin. Do not put Tosin with anyone as of right now, because his run of form has been stinky, and it's been covered up by the fact that Hato, he's getting a lot of the blame for the mistakes specifically. Like I said, the handball kind of is what it is. And that first goal, yes, he didn't deal with the pressures. He got turned inside out. And even outside of those mistakes, he just looked uncomfortable on the pitch. And I feel like he's taken a lot of the flack when realistically he just wasn't getting the support from Tosin. Tosin's meant to be the leader. He's the experienced guy in the squad. He's meant to be, helping the team in certain ways. And he just hasn't been on it this season. So I feel like that's where it's stemming from. Also going forward, we just weren't good enough. Other than Estevao. Estevao was fantastic. I feel like Enzo tried to do a lot when he came on in that second half. Garnacho really tried to do something when he came on. He obviously got himself the goal. But Estevao was fantastic. He needs to start more games. Please, please, please start him against Wolves, because, again, merit of performance. Putting in a man of the match performance, getting himself another goal. The goal and assist that he is getting in the limited minutes he's getting is unbelievable. So he needs to start for me personally. But I'd like to know your thoughts and opinions down below regarding Chelsea's performance against Qarabag. What would you pinpoint the mistakes on? Are you still Maresca out? Are you still Maresca in? Because again, I'm getting bored of that conversation. There seems to be a referendum every time we drop or lose points. I'm personally still Maresca in, but I'd like to know your thoughts and opinions on that. The overall performance, do you blame Hato specifically? Do you think Tosin is the main culprit? Or are we just not good enough based on main rotation? What would you put it down to? Very curious to know your thoughts down below. Maresca then talks on Romeo Lavia's injury. He says, I think it's a quad injury. We feel very ashamed, especially for him, because he's not able to stay fit for a long period. We will see now, as it's too early to understand what kind of injury. Hopefully, it's not a big injury. Now, I actually feel sorry for Romeo Lavia, because it was a non-contact injury. And they're normally the worst. I'm hoping and praying, touch wood, that he isn't out for too long. Maybe he'll make his annual appearance against Liverpool or Spurs in the return fixture, who knows. But I'm really gutted for Lavia, because he is a player that just can't catch a break. And again, I know we have a lot of reactionary fans on the live watch along. People like, sell him, he's not worth it, he's constantly injured, blah, blah, blah. He's 21 years old. And I personally feel like he's got a long time to get over these injuries. And it's very, very frustrating that he's constantly injured, because he's a fantastic player. We know he is, but he just struggles with fitness. And if you think back to this time last year, we have the same thing with Reece James. The exact same thing with Reece James. Just couldn't stay fit. Every time that he was playing, he was picking something up. Small injury here, big injury there, needs a surgery for this, needs to recover for that, can't play more than one game a week. And look how things have transformed in a matter of 12 months. Maresca and the medical team have worked wonders with Reece James specifically. Fofana looks to be okay at the moment. Hopefully he can stay fit. Hopefully. Because that'll be another one that'll be massive boost for Chelsea, especially in that centre-back position, because Fofana's fantastic when he gets a good run of games in. But with Romeo Lavia, I genuinely feel bad for him. We were watching the game, and 4 minutes in, the ball's coming down, and he's just shoulder to shoulder with a man trying to win the ball, and then he pulls up, and he's like, oh, it's his quad. He goes straight down, and you can see the frustration when he was receiving injury and walking off the pitch. He was not happy, and it must be I wouldn't say ashamed. Maybe that's a mistranslation from Maresca, but like maybe it's empathy, or he just feels bad, feels sorry for him a little bit, that he can't just be fit for a longer period of time, because honestly it's such a struggle. I can't imagine what he's going through mentally of having to deal with this all the time. Same with Reece James when he was constantly fit, and same with other players as well. It must take a toll. Romeo Lavia is fantastic when he plays, and we know how useful he can be in that squad and how many different roles he can play in terms of breaking up the play, distribution of the ball, long time driving the ball forward at times, covering up for other players in the 6 or the right back role or wherever it may be. He's unbelievable. It's just his fitness, and I hope that he's not out for a long time. But like I said, with a non-contact injury, they're usually the worst. The same with Delap. Running after a ball, no contact at all, pulls his hamstring, is out for 2 months. And it's just, again, hamstring injuries are very, very difficult to... Once you start getting them, you continuously get them unless you looked after the right way. Quads, very much similar. It's just the opposite side of the leg, but big muscle. So once they start going, it's a case of looking after them again. The difference I feel that Enzo Maresca's done with Reece James is he's adapted his position to accommodate for his body changing and developing after all this healing of injuries. With Romeo Lavia, he's a 6. It's very physical. It's not necessarily one of those positions where you cover a lot of ground going up and down, but it can do at times. There's also periods where he can sit back a little bit more. Again, it's still very physical. I don't know how he's going to adapt that role. So it's going to be very interesting to see what Maresca does with Romeo Lavia. But I'd like to put the question out to you guys. Are you still, as much as we're frustrated with Romeo Lavia, do you want to give up on him and try and sell him? Because my secondary question to that is, who's going to buy a player who's injury prone? Or do we just give him as much time as he needs and not rush him back, because he is only 21 and has so much skill and potential when he is fit? I'd love to know your thoughts down below. SABC Sport have reported that Chelsea head coach Enzo Maresca is hopeful that playmaker Cole Palmer will recover from a groin injury in time to face Barcelona in the Champions League later this month, followed by a crucial Premier League meeting with Arsenal. This is huge. There's no confirmed date specifically, but we know what time frame we are hoping and expecting Cole Palmer to be back now. Maresca has come out and said, Barcelona game, 3 weeks' time, which is a little bit earlier than the extended 6 weeks, but it's still, a fair few weeks away. We are all hoping he is back for that Barcelona game. We massively miss Cole Palmer. I like Buonanotte when he plays in that 10. I think he's a very good footballer, and I think we can utilise him a bit better going forward for sure, but he isn't Cole Palmer. I like João Pedro as a player, but he seems to be really struggling in that 10 role with everyone else in front of him. Hopefully he can create a link up with Delap over time, but he's not Cole Palmer. Now, I like Cole Palmer on the pitch because of the way he thinks. He's outside the box, he's always looking to create. And I want to see Cole Palmer and Estevao on the pitch at the same time. In my opinion, I'd love to see Neto on the left, Palmer in the 10, Estevao on the right, and either Delap or João Pedro, because I think either of them in that 9 role, with those 3 behind them, are going to get so much service. In the air, something that's to feet, and some clever runs in the channels. I think it'd be unbelievable. But we are all hoping that he is back for the Barcelona game. It is a 6-pointer in the Champions League at this point. Now, it's not the end of the world because of the position we're in. A lot of people are having a meltdown because of the games we've got left. We have Barcelona, Napoli, we've got, I think it's Paphos, and Atalanta. We've got some difficult games. So very, very difficult games. And that Barcelona game is next. It's in 3 weeks' time, and it looks like a 6-pointer in terms of if we want to get into... I think top 8 is pretty much gone for us now. Again, it depends on other results and if we keep winning or whatnot. But the top 16 is where we want to be. We don't want to be playing that playoff thing. I think it's in the 16 or just below it. I'm not entirely sure. Essentially, we want to go through to the next round. And we're hoping we don't have to play any extra games doing it. But we are Chelsea and we like doing this. We like making things as hard as possible for us. And this is what kind of sets things up for an epic game against Barcelona, because these are the types of games that Chelsea will step up in. Having Cole Palmer back for that game, is it going to be a bit too much to just chuck him straight in and go, hey, you've been out for a long time, go give us the best performance you've had, give us a PSG performance against Barcelona? Possibly, but even if he can play that game, it just gives us such a big boost. Now, I'm hoping that he can be fit for around that time. Even if he doesn't play a full 90 against Barca, that's great, because we've got Arsenal very shortly after that. And that's going to be a massive, massive game this season. Arsenal look incredible this season. They're not conceding goals. I think they're 6 points clear at the Premier League at the moment. They're battering people in the Champions League as well. They are a force to be reckoned with. And we all know that it's a London derby. It's always a big, big game for Chelsea. It's also a big game for Arsenal. They like the bragging rights, etc. And so do we. Having Palmer back for that will be huge. It will be massive, 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 massive. I can't stress that enough. We miss him so much. So let's hope that this is something to go by, and Cole Palmer is back and ready, maybe playing some minutes just before the Barcelona game, so he is ready for, like, you know, can play the Barcelona game in its fullest, or even for an hour or 35 minutes or something that's not just a cameo appearance in the second half, because having a player like Palmer against Barcelona makes a world of difference. So let me know your thoughts and opinions down below. Do you think that Palmer will be back for the Barcelona game in terms of playing a full game, or do you think he'll be ready just to play a couple minutes here and there? I'm very curious to know your thoughts. Ben Jacobs on TalkSport did an interview with Pochettino recently, and this is what's been reported. Pochettino starts off by saying, "My first season was about to stop a little bit. The way that Chelsea was going down, it was difficult to stop this negative dynamic that, if you remember, I don't know if it was 6 to 8 months, that one win in Stamford Bridge. Before us, 12th in the Premier League. I wish all the best, and I spent a very good time. I keep very good relationship with the people, with the players there. I think for sure they're going to be a team that is going to challenge for the big things." He then speaks on the Chelsea departure, and he reiterates, "We decide both parties to split." Now, this is very interesting. I thought I'd just react to it and get you guys' thoughts and opinions, because I think revisionism online is just wild to navigate, right? There are some people that didn't want Pochettino to be sacked. I hear that. There are people that just weren't his fans. I hear that. There were people that are a bit indifferent in the middle, which is quite rare. I was kind of in that camp. I did not like Pochettino to start with, but by the end of the season, when he was let go, I was kind of like, oh, that's quite surprising, because we did actually start to turn things around the last 6 or 7 games of the season and have that good run. However, there were a lot of Pochettino's tactics and decision-making that I was always questioning. It made not a lot of sense. It was basketball games, very high-scoring games, entertaining through the roof. Every game was entertaining, but it just wasn't consistent, and, well, very much like we are right now in terms of consistent performances, but I think that Chelsea are in a different position than when we were under Pochettino. But he had a 2-year contract. He did one year of it, and then when he was split, like I said, I was a bit like, oh, okay, very indifferent about it, but I was quite surprised because of how we turned the season around at the end. But there were lots of pockets of fans in terms of really wanted to back him, absolutely loved him, thought he was bringing out the best entertaining, exciting football that we could then build on next season, because he went from 12th to 6th, which is a big jump, really, when you think about it. Even though the points difference between 12th and 6th wasn't that much, there were some results in there that we really needed to go into Europe. And unfortunately, because of the FA Cup win that we weren't involved in, that knocked us down to the Conference League. Otherwise, we would have secured Europa League football, which again is out of his control. So I think he did well in that sense, because we finished 12th the season before. But there was also fans that just never liked him from the get-go. Now, I wasn't a big fan of the appointment, if I'm being honest. I was a bit like, Spurs guy. That kind of tribalism about it. But at the same time, you back anyone that's in the dugout till they give you a reason not to. And I just, over the course of the season, I was just like, I don't really like this. But like I said, over time, he kind of swayed me a little bit. I did actually expect him to stay on for the extra season and kind of see what he could build from, and have a summer transfer window under his belt to see what he would do with the squad. But obviously that wasn't meant to be. But I thought this very interesting that Pochettino still has a good relationship and still good connection with the players and the staff at Chelsea. There was a recent picture of him and Emma Hayes recently. Obviously Pochettino being the national manager for America, and Emma Hayes being over there as well, managing in America. So it was quite a nice sort of like, what's it called, reunion for them. Also, still quite strange to see, like I said, from the tribalism standpoint of like, oh, Pochettino is a Spurs man. That's what I know him as, but he's also linked with having his time at Chelsea as well. But yeah, I just thought it was very interesting. I like that he's basically acknowledging that Chelsea are going to go challenge for things. I still feel very confident. And I know that we keep saying trust the process, and it's very frustrating, and we're constantly building for the future. But if you just look at Pochettino's Chelsea to Enzo Maresca's Chelsea, it's massively different. Massively different in terms of foundations that have been set, the football that we've been playing. We've won trophies in between then, and we just look a lot more solid. It's not that end-to-end basketball football that Pochettino had us playing. And I kind of feel for Pochettino in terms of the timing that he came into Chelsea, because he basically had to settle the ship and then try and improve results. And I feel like he did half of that on both. He obviously got us better results in terms of league finish, but settling the ship, he was kind of balancing with that throughout the season. And his football was very, very different to Enzo Maresca's. Like I said, basketball football, very entertaining, high-scoring games, and Enzo Maresca's very possession-based, can be very boring to watch sometimes, but we can still get results over the line when we're not having our best performances. But when it's working well, it's very free-flowing attacking football, and we tear teams apart. So I think we're at very, very different stages. But I do agree with Pochettino. I do think that we can go on and challenge for things, and I think that this roller coaster of inconsistency of performances is going to continue for a number of years until we actually develop some experience within the squad, and it is completely settled in terms of we know who our starting 11 is. There's no massive changes in terms of squad players, not just rotation. When that becomes more of a frequent and more comfortable thing for the players that can adapt to the system, and Enzo Maresca gets some key players. Number one priority is a centre-back. It is a centre-back. We need one. We need to solidify that centre-back position, in my opinion. Someone who is not injury-prone, someone who is experienced, someone who can just be an absolute bulldozer, someone who can be good on the ball. But I thought this was very interesting because it's just randomly out of the blue. I don't know why this sort of interview come about. I've not actually seen the whole thing. Maybe it's to do with the World Cup in America next year, potentially. It would make a lot of sense. But yeah, just wanted to react to it and kind of get your thoughts and opinions on Pochettino looking back. Like I said, revisionism is a wild thing on the internet, and I love kind of go down that route because you just get so many different thoughts and opinions from the revisionism side of things. I would still stand by what my thoughts were on Pochettino. You know, when he left, I've not really changed that. I've not wanted him back. I think it was probably a good decision to get rid of him, even though I was surprised by it, because I think we have moved on from there. But at the same time, people still want Mourinho back. They want Tuchel back. They want Conte back. They want Ancelotti back. That never kind of changes. So I just want to kind of get your thoughts and opinions on the whole Pochettino Chelsea, what he's saying here in the interview, and your overall thoughts and opinions. Let me know down below. And that's the latest Chelsea news. Let me know your thoughts and opinions on everything that's been reported down below in the comment section. I love having a conversation with you guys. If you have watched this video all the way to the end, firstly, you're a real one, and I mean that, you're a real one. But secondly, there'll be a thumbnail appears on the screen. So if you are a Chelsea fan who enjoys Chelsea content, make sure you click that thumbnail because you'll enjoy that video too.